Greetings, everyone, and a very warm welcome to another edition of Marketing the Invisible. I'm Tom Poland, beaming out to you from ever from the Sunshine Coast in Australia. Joined today by Angela Bell, a little birdie who told me is about 2 hours south of a big city in Mountain Time. Where are you, Angela? Where are you hanging out?
I'm just 20 minutes south of Salt Lake City. So I live on Utah Lake with this big 12,000 foot mountain to look at. It's gorgeous.
Holy dooly, it sounds fantastic. What the heck are you doing talking to me? You should be out there. I guess it's cold right now. Is it like we got just starting February in Australia, January still in the US, but
It is.
is it cold?
It's it's 32 degrees, but the sun is out and it's beautiful. And I walk around the lake year round because
Oh,
it
no,
just
that's lovely.
changes
Yeah,
every
yeah,
month or so. It's
I
just
think
gorgeous.
there's a few good reasons for living there then. 32 Fahrenheit, a little colder than 32 Celsius, but still quite nice if the sun's out. Let's get off the
Yeah.
weather and back onto you. Angela is the creator of Holistically Made Millionaire. And the whole thing about holistic is a theme that runs through her brand, which I absolutely love because very often people get unbalanced and people end up with health problems, they end up with mental problems, they end up with relationship issues because they don't have a holistic approach to business. I think it's some sort of silo or one-dimensional approach. So music to my ears, Angela. Can't wait to unpack that a bit. She's a strategist, so she's looking at big picture, which is very often difficult for us as the person who's in the weeds, so to speak, to see what's going on big picture. So she looks at that, and her thing, the raison d'etre, is to guide us from recurring problems, putting out the fire, so to speak, to actually having a business where those problems have transformed into profitability and personal freedom, which is one of the big reasons why we all got into our own business, to serve other people effectively, fulfillment, et cetera. Personal freedom is a big thing. So let's kick off, Angela. Can't wait to unpack all this. Title today, folks, is How to Shift from Problems to Profit Through a Holistic Evolution in Business Building. I got there. Okay. Time is going to start now, Angela. Let's go. Ideal client, please.
Our ideal client is twofold. They're either someone who's at a tipping point because their business is on fire, marketing, sales, leads, all that is great. Or on the other hand, they're a business owner that is tired of playing whack-a-mole with their problems and they're about ready to burn the thing down themselves. And we help them do a controlled burn of controlled growth on the bottom line, not just the top line, without having to slow down, fall apart, or lose that personal bandwidth.
Right. That's another thing a lot of us entrepreneurs lose sight of is that bottom line. We get very excited about sales. You can always tell an entrepreneur, you ask them how business, they go, oh, it's great. Sales are great. I got no money, but the sales are great. Go
Yeah,
figure.
how about your
So
pocket?
so the common denominator between that person whose business is really taking off and the person who's struggling a bit maybe is that there are problems and maybe a different set of problems, but there are still problems. So let's talk about that. Question two is, what is the problem you solve?
So there's two problems we solve. There's the business owner that has the reoccurring problems you talked about that's playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
They solve one and 14 pop up in another area.
Yep.
But there's also the business owner that has that elephant in the room that as successful as they've been, they haven't been able to solve that one and it goes everywhere with them. Imagine whatever you think of Elon Musk. He has the same 24 hours in the day that we do, and yet he manages to run several companies successful. Imagine him showing up to the business that he just acquired and saying, okay, I'm here to solve your problems. We don't do that. Instead of solving problems, we dissolve them. And you do that by using problems as just indicators. It's just data. You don't sit there and obsess over a spreadsheet. Instead, it's indicators indicating something you're going to create over here. And that is what Elon does. He can create and he can lead. So he has more capacity, more bandwidth, more security, and more profit.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So if we're not Elon Musk, which most of us don't seem to be, question three is, we're talking a bit about problems and how to talking about dissolving them instead of making them, sort of confronting them. They
Right.
represent, they appear in metrics and so on. What would you say are some of the other typical symptoms of the problems that you solve? So give us a heads up on what's going on in the life of someone who's running one of these businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Number one is they have anxiety. They're really frustrated and they feel kind of stuck between their success and the reality of where they are.
Yeah.
There is a problem they haven't been able to solve, or that's their job, is they're just solving problems. They are angry at their team or their staff or their customer. Those are the people that have the indicators that we know they're ready for us.
Thank you. And just under 4 minutes left. Question four is we're talking about very growth oriented individuals here. So they're going to be
Mhm.
trying to fix the problem. So what would you say some of the common mistakes they make when trying to solve those problems?
So the first one is trying to solve it instead of creating something new. You want to create a leader in a company where those problems don't exist. And if you use the same thinking that didn't see the problem coming or created the problem, you're just going to make more problems for yourself. The second one is let go of implementation. Leave that to your staff. Your job is to integrate. If you're not an integrator, you cannot scale. And if you did scale what you've been implementing, you will hate it. You will hate it. It'll kill you.
All right.
We don't want to do that. Integration.
Integration. Thank you for that. So let's dive into something really specific. Well, what would you say is a top tip, like a valuable free action someone could take pretty short time that it's not going to solve the whole problem, but it might take them a step in the right direction?
Yeah. Well, the first step here is becoming someone who has leadership vision, right? Who can create from there. So, number one is just decide to have fresh eyes and look for integrated solutions, not temporary fixes that mean you have to do it again tomorrow. Number two, collaborate. We cannot see our own ears no matter how hard we try, right? Like you just can't. So you need someone there beside you. Make sure that they're not someone who's going to drag you back into implementation, whether it's some kind of strategist, consultant, or colleague. Make sure there's someone who has that leadership vision. Number three, think bigger than the problem. People get the root cause wrong. That's part of the reason it never goes away because they think at the level at the problem. So that's too small. Think bigger, bigger, bigger. For example, a fellow Australian client I just finished with owns several businesses there. 45% capacity, had gotten out of the business, hired a general manager, but couldn't sell, couldn't retire because of this elephant in the room. She thought she had a hiring problem because it has medical, highly qualified staff, injectors, and doctors. It was not a hiring problem. I stepped in with my mindset team. I'm like the general contractor. I bring in these scalers who are on my scale squad. They built billion-dollar companies, and we identified the real problem. It wasn't a hiring problem, it was a culture problem. 2 phone calls. We fixed the culture problem because we didn't try and fix it. We created a new culture. We didn't try to fix the old one. Toxic people left. Doctors stepped up that had only worked part-time, filled her capacity problem, attracted new doctors, and became a trainer for injectors. So she wasn't reliant on what the schools were pumping out. She trained her own people so she could
So-
hire for culture.
so-
Guess what that did? 35% to her bottom line. She went from problems to profit.
and utilize more of a capacity. So it's a great example of not trying to solve the problem, which she said was a hiring issue, but finding out the root cause of that problem was, which was culture, toxic people, toxic culture. Thank you for that. Question seven, last question. What's the, sorry, folks, I've stumbled here. Let me stop the clock because that's only fair for you, Angela. Question six is a valuable free resource. Where can people go to find out more about this? Because your approach is very holistic. So I imagine you've got something that where people could go to and find out what they're missing in that holistic approach.
Yeah, this is the brainchild of my career. I brought together a holistic business assessment with my scale squad. It's not automated. It's a panel that actually looks at each submittal and gives you real new choices with fresh eyes. I
Okay.
promise there's more options than they know
And
out there.
real quick, where would they get that?
At wholisticallymade.com. And that's holistic with a W, wholisticallymade.com.
Holistically, so WHOL, holistically
Yes.
with two L's made.com. Thank you for that. Go get it, folks. Once you hit that homepage, top of the fold, you'll see the option to have a look at that diagnostic. 21 seconds left. We're going to start the clock again. What's the one question I should have asked you but didn't? And the answer, please.
What is a holistically made millionaire?
And what is that?
It's simple. You really did a great set in the beginning on the intro. Is we look at the world differently, and it's not just about money. It's not even just about freedom. It's what we can do with it in our capacity, both in our business and in our personal life and in our health. And one area of wealth supports other areas of wealth. So it's having the whole package and letting it lift and support and making business
Beautiful.
and life fun again.
Angela Bell, thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, and your insights. Thanks for checking out our Marketing the Invisible podcast. If you like what we're doing here, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. It's very much appreciated. And if you want to generate 5 fresh leads in just 5 hours, then check out www.5hourchallenge.com.